Ji Ka Khalsa, Waheguru Ji Ki Fateh. Welcome to a special edition of Community Talks. I'm very pleased today to be joined by two eminent lawyers, particularly Parminder Singh Saini, QC, King's Counsel, and a young aspiring lawyer, Jaskirat Singh Gulshan. Perhaps I could start with Jaskirat. Jaskirat, welcome to Community Talks.
Waheguru Ji Ka Khalsa, Waheguru Ji Ki Fateh. Thank you for having me.
Perhaps you can tell us a little bit of the background to the matter we want to discuss today, and that is you, as a young aspiring lawyer, you went to a magistrate's court and you had a very bad experience. Can you tell us about that?
Yes, certainly. This was in middle of March 2021. I went to the court, which is my local court, Ealing Magistrates Court, and I was asked to attend by the witness services to help witness give evidence for the behalf of the Crown. But as it stood on the day I was trying to enter the court, I was informed that there's a policy in place for Kirpan, which I wasn't aware of, and I was restricted entry immediately. Firstly, I would add that the security guards had absolutely no clue in terms of what Kirpan is, what it means, that it's an artifact of Sikh faith and it's carried by all Amritari Sikhs around. But the situation that we had was they kept referring to as knife, which had to guide them. And then later, there was policy was disclosed, which said a kirpan of only overall size 6 inches was allowed, with a blade with maximum size of 4 inches. Now, anybody who's Amritari would know that if you have a kirpan with overall size with a blade of 4 inches, it's almost impossible to have an overall size of 6 inches, because if your blade is 4 inches, you need 1 inch extra for the cover or the sheath or the mayan to cover the blade, and your handle will not be 1 inch. So it was ridiculous. The sizes were impractical, and the kirpan I wear is blade is 4 inches, and overall size is 8 inches, which makes sense because you're gonna have 3 inches for the handle. But I was refused entry. I was forced to take my kirpan off, and unfortunately, I had to because I couldn't leave the person giving evidence on behalf of the Crown, as she was very vulnerable. So it was very important for me to be there for someone's safety and security rather than anything else.
I'm very surprised that this happened in Ealing, in West London, which is one of the hearts of the global Sikh community.
It was very shocking for me as well. I was told कि कहंदे on that day असां तो पता नहीं सी कि पान पांदे या, and this is like the the closest court to Sasso. ਤੇ ਜੇ ਇਹਨਾਂ ਨੂੰ ਇੱਥੇ ਨਹੀਂ ਪਤਾ ਕਿ ਕਿਰਪਾਨ ਪਾਉਂਦੇ ਫਿਰ ਕਿਤੇ ਬਾਹਰਲੇ ਸ਼ਹਿਰਾਂ ਵਿੱਚ ਉਹਨਾਂ ਨੂੰ ਕਿੱਦਾਂ ਪਤਾ ਹੋਣਾ ਸੀਗਾ. And for that reason I felt if they are unaware, then I'm sure many others are unaware, and that hence we started this campaign. And also we tried to sort of negotiate to have the policy changed in order to have a measurements that's practical, reasonable for Sikhs to continue, but it didn't happen. Hence, we started proceedings in the High Court by lodging an application for permission to seek judicial review.
Perhaps we can turn to King's Counsel, Mr. Saini, and he can tell us about that process. You made a legal challenge to this objection to the Kirpan at the Ealing Magistrates. Parminder, welcome to Community Talks.
Thank you very much for having me. Waheguru Ji Ka Khalsa, Waheguru Ji Ki Fateh. Just to correct you, I'm not King's Counsel just yet, so apologies for that. I'm not sure where that information came
from,
but I'm the senior counsel, as it were.
And especially if you're spearheading community initiatives like this, you certainly deserve to be appointed King's Counsel in due course.
Thank you. Well, with Maharaja Kripa, I'll soon have that blessing, hopefully. So let me say from the outset that this is not my normal field of practice. I normally do immigration, asylum, and human rights law. But I noticed from the incident when it occurred that Jaskirat was somewhat floundering in that he was on his own in this. And I recall he tried to reach out to a few lawyers, and no one was willing to take up the mantle and take on the government in this issue. And so, even though this isn't my speciality, I decided to undertake it, research it, and do as much, do as much studying into the topic as I could, so that I would become sufficiently acquainted with it, and that I could lodge these grounds. So I decided to take it up on his behalf. This is my, as it were, seva for the community, because it struck me as being fundamentally wrong, down to the core of my being and my DNA, that this should be happening to the Sikh community in our Qawm. You'll see from my appearance, I'm not an Amritdhari Sikh, but I very much believe in the principles of the Khalsa, and I one day, if I'm worthy of it, I would take the Amrit Chak. But the thing is, I don't want to see rights being trammeled ever, and particularly when they're of a minority. And given that no one was there to aid Jaskirat, I decided to come into his aid and see what I could do to help him vindicate himself. So we started the judicial review, and that was some time ago now. I think it was July or August of 2021. But the matter has come a long way since then. But from the outset, it does seem that the government initially indicated that there might have been something wrong in what they were doing, but they didn't wholeheartedly hold their hands up. They said that there might be discretion that they could have applied in allowing a Sikh to enter, but they said it in a very soft-spoken way. You have to read between the lines to find it, let's say.
And so, has there been any practical resolution to this? Have the magistrates' court in question in Ealing, which would be a start, have they admitted their mistake, as it were, or their misconception, their misunderstanding, and made amends and changed their policy? Was that same policy still in place today?
Well, no, the same policy is not in place. It has been overtaken because in the midst of the litigation and shortly after the claim was lodged, the timing is, you could say, somewhat remarkable. The Her Majesty's Courts and His Majesty's Courts and Tribunal Service now, through the Lord Chancellor, who is the defendant in this matter, or the respondent now, as it's an appellate court matter, decided to perform a review of the unpublished internal security policy. And that review has now taken effect, and a new version of the security policy has been published since November 2022. We can't say much, as litigation is still ongoing, about the contents of the review or the litigation as such, but it would sufficient to say that Jaskirat will still be affected by the new policy because the overall size for a kirpan still remains 6 inches.
But there has been some concession, and the Quran is recognized as an article of Sikh faith. The Sikhs in the future will not encounter the same problem. Is that right?
No. There hasn't been any concession per se, other than perhaps discretion could have been exercised had a security person, a senior security officer, been consulted. However, that isn't a discretion or a concession that the government has said would mean that we should succeed. Far from it, they say that we should still fail in our case, in our claim, and the appeal. So the matter is still ongoing, and we are still trying to explore with the court on what basis it is said that a Sikh can carry a Quran. There is various.
I can just add, there shouldn't be a discretion. Just get it. How do you feel about that? If it's left to somebody's discretion in the court, there should be a clear directive on this.
I mean, it's heartbreaking first and foremost that in the 21st century we're still fighting for a basic right to wear a Quran. It's very surprising given the Sikh history and what we've contributed into the British history during the World War One and World War Two. Our contributions are immense, to say the least. But given that the current discretion now is very limited, even the Quran that I'm wearing today under the new policy, I cannot enter. When I say I mean any Amritdhari Sikh cannot enter unless you're wearing a miniature Quran, which is ridiculous because ਆਪਾਂ ਇੰਨਾ ਕੁਝ ਕਰ ਚੁੱਕੇ ਹਾਂ ਇਹ ਸਾਨੂੰ ਇੱਕ ਹੁਣ ਇੱਥੇ ਕਿਰਪਾਨ ਪਾ ਕੇ ਅੰਦਰ ਜਾਣ ਦਾ ਹੱਕ ਨਹੀਂਗਾ ਕਿਸੇ ਸੀਨੀਅਰ ਪਰਸਨ ਨੂੰ ਪਹਿਲਾਂ ਜਾ ਕੇ ਕੰਸਲਟ ਕਰੋ ਫਿਰ ਉਸ ਤੋਂ ਬਾਅਦ ਉਹ ਤੁਹਾਨੂੰ ਡਿਸਾਈਡ ਕਰਨਗੇ ਤੁਸੀਂ ਅੰਦਰ ਜਾ ਸਕਦੇ ਨਹੀਂ ਜਾ ਸਕਦੇ ਆ। ਬੇਇਨਸਾਫੀ ਹੈ ਬਿਕੋਜ਼ ਅਸੀਂ ਜੇ ਬਾਕੀ ਸਾਰੇ ਕੰਮ ਕਰ ਸਕਦੇ ਹਾਂ, ਅਸੀਂ ਆਰਮੀ ਜੁਆਇਨ ਕਰ ਸਕਦੇ ਹਾਂ, ਬਾਕੀ ਸਾਰਾ ਕੁਝ ਦੇਸ਼ ਵਾਸਤੇ ਕਰ ਸਕਦੇ ਹਾਂ, ਕੋਈ ਪ੍ਰੋਬਲਮ ਨਹੀਂ। ਪਰ ਇੱਕ ਵਕੀਲ ਹੋਣ ਦੇ ਨਾਤੇ ਜਾਂ ਇੱਕ ਵਿਟਨੈਸ ਹੋਣ ਦੇ ਨਾਤੇ ਜਾਂ ਤੁਹਾਨੂੰ ਵੀ ਕਦੀ ਕੋਈ ਕੰਮ ਪੈ ਜਾਂਦਾ ਉਸ ਅੰਦਰ ਕੋਰਟ ਦੇ ਅੰਦਰ ਜਾਣ ਵਾਸਤੇ ਤੁਹਾਨੂੰ ਕਿਸੇ ਇੱਕ ਸੀਨੀਅਰ ਆਫਿਸਰ ਦੀ ਪਰਮਿਸ਼ਨ ਲੈਣੀ ਪੈਂਦੀ ਹੈ। It's absolutely ridiculous. And for that reason, it's heartbreaking to say the least that we're being sort of treated in such a demeaning way or degraded to the point where you every time you walk into courtroom and you could be questioned and be asked, can you open your trousers? Because the kirpan has to be worn underneath the clothes, so it has to be sort of discreet. And just imagine walking into a courtroom and saying, hold on, we know you're carrying a kirpan, can you move aside because we can see the size of your kirpan, and then call a senior person to see, ask them to what they say, whether you're allowed entry or you're not. So every time you walk into a courtroom building or a tribunal, you're always living in fear whether you're going to be able to enter the courtroom or not. So I think it's really heartbreaking.
That is very disappointing, given the contribution, as you say, of the Sikh community, both in the past, but certainly in the present. The Sikh community are very high profile across the UK with aid work, whether it's in Turkey, other parts of the world. And the Sikhs are recognized globally now as a very progressive community with a lot to give to humanity. And it is disappointing that the Kirpan, which is very important to all Sikhs around the world, whether they wear it or not, on a daily basis, the Kirpan is dear to all of us. It should be treated in this manner. Parminder, what is the next step to take in your legal battle? Because the discretion isn't sufficient, really. It needs to be much clearer.
It isn't, and it's not just down to discretion. So, I mean, part of what we're arguing is that there is every right for a Sikh to manifest his faith by carrying a kirpan and adhering to the tenets of the Khalsa and the 5 Ks put down by Guru Gobind Singh Ji Maharaj. And the point, I think, which the government needs to perhaps realize is that there needs to be consistency across government institutions and buildings as to when a kirpan can or cannot be carried. It makes no sense, for example, that one has to change one size of kirpan when one enters a particular public building, particularly when one has the right to carry kirpan and manifest their religion in public under the European Convention of Human Rights in terms of manifesting your religion. So that is something I think that they need to grapple with. And for example, if Jaskirat were to have attempted to enter the Houses of Parliament as a guest or as a visitor or for a tour even, he would have been allowed to enter. And if, for example, there can be the right to interfere with a person's ability to carry their kirpan and manifest their faith for reasons of national security, let's say at an airport, that's understandable because it involves a certain amount of risk. But where it comes to public buildings and everyday walks of life, like courts and tribunal buildings, hospitals, police stations, schools, the Houses of Parliament, as we say, there needs to be consistency. And if the Houses of Parliament, which is, if I may say, a much more high-profile building than a magistrate's court in humble old West Ealing, then if he can carry his kirpan there, it makes no sense that in terms of security, he could not carry his kirpan in the magistrate's court, particularly, one should say, if he is intending to practice law as counsel or a solicitor. This is going to also impede upon many Sikhs' ability to practice law as well as manifest their faith. In one sense, unless this is resolved in our favour, one cannot be an Amritdhari and practice law, to take it to its extreme.
That's absolutely unacceptable because there are many, many Sikh solicitors, barristers, lawyers across the UK, and the Sikh Kirpan is an important article of our faith, and it must be established that Sikh lawyers should be able to wear the Kirpan if they so wish to do so and attend court. And I want to thank both of you for taking up this initiative on behalf of the whole community, because the Kirpan is such an important issue for Sikhs across the world, And in recent years, there have been various instances where there's been restrictions placed upon the Quran, and we must continue to overcome those restrictions or barriers. And this is an important example that you're taking forward. And can you tell us about what sort of support you're looking for in the next stage of your campaign, what we can do here at SIKH Channel and the wider Sikh community, particularly in the Greater London area?
Is that to just give it on myself? Sorry.
We'll start with Jaskirat, who's affected by this firsthand.
My main concern since the start of this campaign has been that I feel we need to stand as one. We need unity. There's in the past I've seen there have been many attempts to deal with such issues or religious issues, but they've been separate by separate organizations. But right now we all need to stand as one, and for that reason I say unity is the most fundamental important issue. I need organizations to come forward to come and say that what's happening is wrong. I've had letters from Sikh Council UK. I've had United Sikhs and various other organizations, Sikh Lawyers Associations, Sikh Federation, and all of them have been very helpful. They provided letters. We need that support, and mostly we need the real support on the day of the hearings in High Court. The judge basically made some remarks to the sense that you say this is a community issue, and yet you're alone in this courtroom. Where's your community? When judge makes those such kind of remarks, it's heartbreaking because you're thinking, I've been doing all this work, and I need my community to come and stand with me on the day of the hearing, so attending the hearing. But in saying that, even as in this case, there are financial consequences as well. So we also need financial support as well. There's a fund me page which on in the name of Justice for Kirpan, on Just Giving. So we need donations in order to carry on this case, carry on this litigation. There's already been an order of £2,800. So which means in the future, given the judgment on Court of Appeal, which is due at any time soon, there could be further cost consequences if I don't get permission. And even if I do get permission, we're going to proceed further and carry on. So we also need that financial support as well. But one thing I must say is on the day of the hearings, we need people to come forward, attend. I need all the Jathebandiyas to come and stand with me in this case, because it's not just my case, it's a Qom's case that I'm trying to do, to bring the rights of Sikhs forward so that we don't face discrimination. As Parminder Padi said, just imagining you walking from Houses of Parliament and then trying to enter into a court building. They said, no, you've got to go and change your Kirpan. For that reason, बहुत जरूरी अपन दे नाल खड़िए, आप अपने हक्कां वास्ते इकट्ठे खड़िए, ते आप मेक श्योर करिए कि कंसिस्टेंसी पॉलिसी बने जिन्हें नाल अपने Kirpan पा के कोई भी बिल्डिंग विच किथे भी जाने कोई प्रॉब्लम ना होवे. That's what I'm really seeking.
Thank you very much, Jaskirat. And Parminder, what would you like to add to that?
Hanji, as Jaskirat was saying, in terms of what stage we've reached. So there has been a hearing before the Court of Appeal, before two of the most senior judges in the country. There was Lord Burnett, who's the Lord Chief Justice, and Lord Justice Underhill, who's the Vice President of the Court of Appeal. They've heard whether or not to consider giving permission to us to argue this case before the Court of Appeal. We are, as Jaskirat says, we are awaiting the judgment. Should things go against us, however, we are of a mind at the moment that we should take this forward and approach the European Court of Human Rights. Because, as we say, this is not something which is solely for a small part of the community of the UK. This is going to affect all Amritdhari Sikhs. And it is going to be something that is going to be... this, let's say, is a watershed moment. It's going to be the time when you draw a line in the sand. Because the moment you give an inch, you might as well give a mile in terms of your rights. There is, one can say, in recent years in politics, an increasing amount of reduction of people's rights, certainly human rights especially. One can have seen this since Brexit, and in terms of, say, immigration, the area I mainly practice in, one can see it there too. But in terms of minority rights here and the Sikh community, we do feel, Jaskirat and I, and others who are supporting us, the few who we have, that we should take this matter forward, because if we do not do something now, it will only get worse. And as we say, it's a fundamental right for a Sikh to manifest their faith. So we do need all the support we can get. We do need people standing shoulder to shoulder with Jaskirat, and we do need the community, the Qawm, to unite behind this case. There is no need for any dissension here, and there's nothing to split or divide us as a community. The Qurban is something that we all value highly, even people like myself who are not Amritdhari Sikhs. We have the utmost respect for it and for the principles laid down by Guru Gobind Singh Ji Maharaj. And this is something which even I, as a non-Amritdhari Sikh, must say is a point where we must put our foot down and say enough is enough. So we would like to take things forward. There are costs, of course, attendant to the litigation so far. It's not that we are lining lawyers' pockets here, let's say. This is for the purposes of paying court fees and things like that. Litigation does have attendant costs, so Jaskirat does need your help. So it would be useful, kind of the community to lend its support, either financially or at least standing shoulder to shoulder, or at least spreading awareness about the hearings or this issue being at stake, particularly if you have children who want to go into the legal profession and they want to take Amrit and they want to carry a Qurban. They should be allowed to do so. It's their choice and their freedom. So this is something I think we should all think about and perhaps consider lending our support to the cause.
That's tremendous. Thank you, Parminder. There are 3 large Gurdwara and communities close to the actual magistrates' court where this occurred that I can certainly think of. Ealing Gurdwara, Singh Sabha, Southall, the main large Gurdwara in West London, and also central London Gurdwara Shepherd's Bush. And at SIKH Channel, we can certainly reach out to all 3 Gurdwara who work closely with us and ask them to contact you and find out more about this case and offer their support and galvanise and harness the support of the local community there in West London. Because I'm sure by coming together, as you say, with greater support and the community gathering around this issue, I'm sure you can be successful.
We hope so. And we will be grateful for that support as well. Thank you.
Jaskirat, because this initiative has arisen from your personal experience and you're taking this upon yourself, who will give you the final word. What would you like to say to everybody who's listening on the SIKH Channel, not just in the UK, but across the world?
Yes, last few words. For me, firstly, I would like to thank the SIKH Channel for taking this initiative and raising awareness. It's tremendous that we finally have the support of the community. We're raising awareness. Matter was also covered by an international newspaper, Guardian, as well. So now, what I want from my community, or what I want from Sangat overall, please Sangat ji, hath jod ke benti hai. ਇਹ ਸਿਰਫ ਮੇਰਾ ਕੇਸ ਨਹੀਂਗਾ, ਆਪਣੇ ਸਾਰਿਆਂ ਦਾ ਕੇਸ ਆ, ਆਪਣੇ ਸਾਰਿਆਂ ਹੱਕਾਂ ਦੀ ਲੜਾਈ ਆ। ਤੁਸੀਂ ਅੱਗੇ ਆਓ, ਨਾਲ ਖੜੋ। ਜੇ ਤੁਹਾਡੇ ਕੋਲ ਕੋਈ ਹੋਰ ਓਪੀਨੀਅਨ ਵੀ ਹੈਗੇ ਆ ਜਾਂ ਤੁਸੀਂ ਹੋਰ ਜਾਣਕਾਰੀ ਲੈਣਾ ਚਾਹੁੰਦੇ ਹੋ, ਕੰਟੈਕਟ ਕਰੋ ਕਿ ਆਪਾਂ ਇਸ ਕੇਸ ਨੂੰ ਇਸ ਢੰਗ ਨਾਲ ਅੱਗੇ ਲੈ ਕੇ ਜਾਈਏ ਕਿ ਆਪਣੀ ਜਿੱਤ ਹੋਵੇ, ਆਪਣੇ ਹੱਕ ਆਪਾਂ ਨੂੰ ਪੂਰੇ ਮਿਲਣ। I request the Sangat to come forward and show your support to in this case. ਜੇ ਤੁਸੀਂ ਮੈਂ ਕਹਿੰਦਾ ਹੀਅਰਿੰਗ ਤੇ ਨਹੀਂ ਵੀ ਆ ਸਕਦੇ, ਜੇ ਤੁਹਾਨੂੰ ਕੋਈ ਆਰਟੀਕਲ ਰੀਡ ਕਰੋ, ਅਵੇਅਰਨੈਸ ਕ੍ਰੀਏਟ ਕਰੋ, ਬਹੁਤ ਜ਼ਰੂਰੀ ਆ ਆਪਾਂ ਨੂੰ ਅਵੇਅਰਨੈਸ ਰੇਜ਼ ਕਰਨੀ। ਬਿਕੋਜ਼ ਜਿਵੇਂ ਮੈਂ ਈਲਿੰਗ ਮੈਜਿਸਟ੍ਰੇਟ ਕੋਰਟ ਗਿਆ, ਜਿਹੜਾ ਸਾਊਥਵੁੱਡ ਸਭ ਤੋਂ ਕੋਲ ਪੈਂਦਾ ਹੈ, ਸਾਊਥਵੁੱਡ ਹਬ ਆਫ ਦ ਸਿੱਖ ਕਮਿਊਨਿਟੀ ਐਸ ਭਾਜੀ ਸੈਡ। ਜੇ ਉੱਥੇ ਨਹੀਂ ਸਿਕਿਉਰਿਟੀ ਗਾਰਡਸ ਨੂੰ ਪਤਾ ਲੱਗਦਾ, ਫਿਰ ਕਿੰਨੇ ਲੋਕਾਂ ਨੂੰ ਬਾਹਰਲੇ ਸ਼ਹਿਰਾਂ 'ਚ ਨਹੀਂ ਪਤਾ ਹੋਣਾ। ਆਪਣੀ ਜ਼ਿੰਮੇਵਾਰੀ ਬਣਦੀ ਹੈ, ਸਾਡੇ ਧਰਮ ਦੇ ਚਿੰਨ੍ਹ ਨੇ, ਸਾਡੇ ਕੀ ਕਹਿੰਦੇ ਆ, ਇੱਕ ਆਰਟੀਫੈਕਟ ਫੇਥ, ਠੀਕ ਹੈ ਨਾ, ਜਿਹੜੇ ਗੁਰੂ ਗੋਬਿੰਦ ਸਿੰਘ ਜੀ ਮਹਾਰਾਜ ਨੇ ਆਪਾਂ ਨੂੰ ਬਖਸ਼ੇ ਨੇ। ਆਪਾਂ ਨਹੀਂ ਆਪਣੇ ਹੱਕਾਂ ਨੂੰ ਪ੍ਰੋਟੈਕਟ ਕਰਨਾ ਹੈ, ਆਪਾਂ ਕਰਾਂਗੇ ਤਾਂ ਹੀ ਅਗਲੇ ਉਹਨਾਂ ਦੀ ਇੱਜ਼ਤ ਕਰਾਂਗੇ, ਰਿਸਪੈਕਟ ਕਰਾਂਗੇ। ਠੀਕ ਹੈ ਜੀ, ਹੱਥ ਜੋੜ ਕੇ ਬੇਨਤੀ ਹੈ, ਪਲੀਜ਼ come and join in this cause, in this campaign. Show your support by sharing this. Come and join us in court when we have court hearings. I know sometimes we don't have much notice to give you because of the timings and the dates are not in our hand, but we need you to attend for us. And also, if you could also help us financially, please do so, as we really need that financial support as well going forward. As Buddy said, if we are refused permission, we have full intention of taking this matter further to the European Courts of Human Rights. So please, Sangat benti hai ਸਾਡੇ ਨਾਲ ਆਣ ਕੇ flow ਵਧੀ.
Thank you very much. Jaskirat Singh, Parminder Singh, Tora Bahut Dhanbad. Thank you for taking this initiative. And SIKH Channel would like to keep in touch. We will be in touch with the Gurdwara who are located in the proximity of this court and ask them to assist you and find out more. And we'll also keep in touch with you as to the progress of your legal challenge. And we do ask that you are successful and you have the support of all the community. Please do keep in touch and let us know how matters progress.
We will do. Thank you very much. Thank you,
Yeah,
SIKH Channel, and thank you, Buddy, for organising this function.
Thank you
Thank
very
you for your
much.
support.
Waheguru
Thank you
Ji ka
for
Khalsa.
Waheguru Ji ka
Waheguru
Khalsa.
Waheguru Ji ki Fateh.